You're probably thinking, we watched Saquon do this last year every single week over and over and over and over again, almost to the point of like, it was unbelievable. And that's true, but the numbers here are showing us that Jahmyr Gibbs was actually doing it at a higher clip. What's going on, everybody? It's your good friend Trey back again with another rankings and tiers video. Today, we're going to talk about the top 20 fantasy football running backs for 2025 using the fantastic projections over at fantasypoints.com. We're going to average out the top 36 running backs in PPR formats, and that number is going to be around 15 fantasy points per game. So this is a weekly venture here. We're going to take the top guys and find out weekly what advantage they have over your average running back on a week-to-week basis. So let's just dive right in. Obviously, the tiers break down like so, same as last week. Your best, your huge, your good, your slight weekly edge, and then guys that are on the right side of average and guys that are on the wrong side of average. Pretty condensed tiers, except for that huge tier in tier 4, but before we get there, let's start with the top. There should be no surprises here, really. It's Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Bijan Robinson. By ADP, Bijan is second, but by our projections, I'm going to put Jahmyr Gibbs in second here. I think I would prefer Jahmyr Gibbs straight up to Bijan Robinson, and I'm going to give you a few reasons why. So with this tier here, here's some stats that Jahmyr Gibbs led this tier in. Explosive run rate, which is going to be your percentage of runs that go 15-plus yards, 10% for Jahmyr Gibbs last year. So on 10% of his runs, he was breaking off big ones. Touchdown rate is going to be your percentage of runs that go for a touchdown. 6.4% also led this tier. So these home run, big, long touchdown plays, they win you your weeks. It's really that simple. And you're probably thinking, we watched Saquon do this last year every single week over and over and over and over again, almost to the point of like, it was unbelievable. And that's true, but the numbers here are showing us that Jahmyr Gibbs was actually doing it at a higher clip. The difference and the reason why it maybe didn't stand out as much as volume. So Gibbs saw 95 fewer attempts than Saquon, and you might be thinking, yeah, but he's used more in the passing game. That's also not true. He ran 70 less routes than Saquon and saw 9 fewer targets. So we're hoping Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a little bit more involved this year, and I think that's a natural progression and a fair thing to hope for in year 3. And from year 1 to year 2, we saw him get more involved. So he saw 68 more attempts in year 2 than he saw in year 3. And where these attempts occurred was kind of the story. So inside the 5 attempts, goal line attempt, not goal line, but inside the 5 and up to the goal line. It includes goal line attempts. He saw 35.5% of those in 2023 and 44.7% in 2024. So I think we're on our way to what could be a 50-50 split. I know Montgomery missed some time, and I'm an Iowa State fan. I love David Montgomery, but Gibbs is a different beast. He's different level of talent, and they would be silly not to utilize him more. So I think that's going to continue to climb. I think all of his usage is going to continue to climb, and we're going to see him used many different ways. But it comes down to explosive plays. It comes down to these valuable goal line touches. It comes down to this crazy efficiency. And Gibbs reminds me, the only person I could put in recent memory is like those 2019 2020 Aaron Jones seasons where the efficiency was just unreal and he was getting it done, in both facets of the game. But the difference is Gibbs is, how they say, he's the Christian McCaffrey of Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones is the Aaron Jones of Aaron Jones. So probably the less confusing way to say this would be that Gibbs' talent level is greater, and the opportunity to completely like break and explode fantasy football is there for Jahmyr Gibbs, like it was there for Christian McCaffrey in 2023. He could just be the guy that you needed to guarantee yourself the playoffs. It could be that simple. So I'm leaning into Jahmyr Gibbs in this tier. And I kind of touched on this other guy here for our next 2 tiers, but I'm going to lump these tiers together, and I just need to explain why they're not one tier. So Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry. Christian McCaffrey, we have him projected for 4.77 points more per week than your average running back. Derrick Henry, 4.54. So that's compared to Ashton Genty, who's 3.44, and Devon Achane, 3.42. So it's a full point difference, really, between these 2 tiers. That's why they're not lumped together. That's why it's separate. So if you're deciding between Derrick Henry and Devon Achane and Ashton Genty, like, you're going with Derrick Henry. But in this tier 4, you're just going to go with Christian McCaffrey. there's no reason not to go with Christian McCaffrey based on the ADP. So Derrick Henry's coming off the board first, pick 11, pick 12. Then it's HN, pick 15, Genty, pick 16, pick 17, and Christian McCaffrey, pick 17 and a half, pick 18. So just based on ADP right now, the value here is with Christian McCaffrey. That's the guy that you're going to want to take. These guys are all bunched up, but yeah, just take the value and take him later and just call it like a magic win. McCaffrey is the pick over Henry marginally because of scoring and substantially because of the ADP discrepancy. And he's the choice over Genty and HM because of the scoring differential is substantial. And the ADP is fair too there. So that's why you're going with Christian McCaffrey in this tier. The 2023 fantasy season started and ended really with Christian McCaffrey. If you drafted him, like I said, Gibbs has the potential to do, you made the playoffs. It's really that simple. If you drafted Christian McCaffrey in 2023, unless you're terrible, you made the playoffs. And I will say we haven't projected pretty modestly in 2025 compared to some of those 2023 numbers, and he's still popping off the page. It's an unbelievable bet at ADP right now, and this could be the number one overall fantasy running back, and it could be by a large margin. So with that possibility that he could single-handedly bring you a championship, in this tier, you're just going to rock with Christian McCaffrey and be happy, be ecstatic. And if somehow you double tap and end up with Gibbs and Christian McCaffrey to start your draft, like that's amazing. And you can go over to the wide receiver tiers video and find out who the later guys you need to pair with those two are. But he's the guy. He's the guy you're targeting in both of these tiers. Tier 4, this one is a little bit trickier. So I want to start with Bucky Irving. Obviously, in order of how these players are listed on the video here, that's the scoring differential. But with Bucky Irving, I would like to say he projects a full point per week lower, than the worst running back in tier 3. So he's definitely below the A-Chain and the Genties of the world, but he projects 0.65 points per week higher than Kenneth Walker, the next best running back in this tier. So he's on a little bit of an island, and he could have been deserving of his own tier, but it wasn't a big enough discrepancy for me since he was so much lower than tier 3 to make him his own tier. So that all said, Bucky Irving is a fine consolation prize. If you miss out on Genty, HN, McCaffrey, Henry, everybody, and you just need to take a running back in that kind of 20 spot, 19, 20 spot, like Bucky Irving is a fine consolation prize, but he's not really a guy that I'm going to be targeting a ton. The guys that I am going to be targeting in this tier are going to be Kenneth Walker and Alvin Kamara. So if we go back to the ADP, this kind of tells a story. Josh Jacobs picked 23. He goes after Bucky Irving at 19. Jonathan Taylor picked 26. Kyren Williams 32. Chase Brown 33. Then you get to Kenneth Walker, who's the second best player in this tier, at pick 44. And Alvin Kamara pick 45. What that basically means is that both of these guys are going almost an entire round after Josh Jacobs and a round and a half after Jonathan Taylor, which is a massive oversight. This shouldn't be happening, and it probably will get corrected over the summer. If this sticks, unfortunately, Josh Jacobs just becomes like a fade. There's no reason to do it. Just wait, a round later, and you'll still have Kenneth Walker or Alvin Kamara there. So Kenneth Walker projects better, and Alvin Kamara projects just slightly worse. So there's no real reason to take Josh Jacobs, in my opinion, with the way things are looking right now. But they will change over the summer, like I said. If the trends stick, I just won't have much Josh Jacobs, unfortunately. So the next tier here is going to be that right side of average tier. There's not a ton to say here, guys. I will strongly urge you to have your running back room mostly figured out before you get to this tier. So obviously that's, 14 guys above, which, so it's not necessarily all that possible to have it fully figured out, but I guess I'm saying you don't want to get to this tier and still need 2 running backs. You need to get somebody in that top 14, just to make sure you have an anchor, and then you can piece it together. And if one of these guys is your RB2, that's fantastic. But this is not where I would start, figuring out my running back situation. Like I said, Joe Mixon and Chuba Hubbard, they're fine fill-ins. If you're really getting worried about your backfield and they're falling down the board, I like that. But there's some other options later that I'm going to rock with. And I think it's important to get into this next tier. And I wish I had better news in this tier, but the news continues to get worse. So this is the wrong side of average. And this is hard because I don't want this whole video to be like a negative spin. I mean, like anybody can come say, yeah, the top 12 guys are great and the bottom, the next guy's like, yeah, of course. But the thing is, this is such a bad tier and the ADPs are so bad in this tier. James Cook and Breece Hall, they are projecting weekly as the RB18 and the RB19, but ADP is saying Breece Hall is the RB13 and Cook is the RB14. So what you're basically doing at that price is you're paying for a 1.5 point per week advantage at that price, and you're getting, you're getting negative 0.4 points for a week for Cook and negative 0.55 points for Breece. So you're on the wrong side of negative, and you're paying a premium price if you're going to take these guys at their ADP. James Cook's going 37th and Breece Hall's going 34th. So like I said, there's guys 2 tiers ahead, Alvin Kamara and Kenneth Walker, that are going after these guys. There's a guy, the Joe Mixon, Chuba Hubbard, James Conner are going after these guys all in a tier ahead. So these are just straight up avoids. Like these are just straight up guys you do not want to have on your team this year. I said Josh Jacobs was a fade. This is more than a fade. This is a lot more than a fade. This is just like a red line. Like, do not draft. Unless it's just like they're falling like crazy. They fall a round or fall 2 rounds in ADP. Maybe it makes some sense. But you just can't. These guys can't end up on your team based on where ADP and where projections are right now. Again, things will change. I know I've said that 100 times, but James Cook and Breece Hall specifically, no good. Cannot draft these guys. RJ Harvey makes a little bit more sense. His ADP is around 69. And obviously here is where in the video you're going to look at some of the guys that maybe didn't make the list. And I'm going to make a case for those guys, and I'm going to give a caveat to this list. So RJ Harvey at 69, if you get stuck late needing a back, just lean on these rookies, okay? Hopefully you won't be in a situation where you need to gamble, but if you do, that's going to be typically your highest ceiling outcome. Projections weekly specifically have a tough time factoring in, how these roles might change during the season. So obviously the weekly projection is going to factor in week 1 to week 18, but it is possible some of these rookie running backs, will have won the backfield over by that point. And in the last 2 months or month of the season, they're scoring at a much higher clip, than they scored in the beginning of the season. And like I said, fantasy championships are won late in the season. So, if RJ Harvey becomes a, 20 point per game scorer the last 4 weeks of the season, that's going to be huge. That's a big difference. And I think any of these, rookie running backs have the opportunity to just win their backfield over and become that guy. So specifically, the rookies that I would want to target down the board, RJ Harvey here at around pick 70. Amarian Hampton goes pick 47. So while he probably is the highest upside, other than Ashton Genty, of course, at 47, you're still in play for Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, like some good backs. So I don't think it's necessary really to take that shot on Amarian Hampton. Quinshon Judkins down the board, Caleb Johnson down the board, Bashal Tootin even down the board. Yeah, I mean, those are all good young running backs. Travion Henderson, if I did not say. Those are the types of guys that I'm going to take shots on late, just because, like I said, that's the one thing that, these projections right now are not going to account for, is that one of these guys could totally take over a backfield and could totally, and we're not in the business of predicting injuries. So obviously anything could happen. Any injury could occur that would change up, what we have projections wise. But I'm going to approach this as if everybody's going to play and everybody's going to be healthy, with respect to the Christian McCaffreys of the world, the Kenneth Walkers who have had I'm projecting these guys are going to play and we're going to have them down the stretch. So of course, a rookie running back could come in week 2 and break the league because, of an injury, like a Najee Harris injury, for example. But we're not going to bank on that. We're just going to say, this is what could happen. And it could happen that one of these guys ends up taking over a backfield and dominates. So if you're going to take shots outside of this top 20 here, take rookies. Go for the rookies and hopefully they pan out for you if you weren't able to get the running backs you needed early here. That's going to basically do it for this video, guys. I don't know if there was any huge surprises, guys, that didn't make the top 20. Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard. Isaiah Pacheco, I feel like this is, those are okay omissions from the top 20. I think everybody understands that. Ryan Hampton maybe is a surprising one, but yeah, shouldn't be too many surprises here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave, multiple comments. Leave a like. I'll respond to any and everything. Any questions, any comments. I'm responding to everything. And yeah, I just want to say the only way to have a friend is to be one. I'm your good friend, Trey. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.